All right, and here he is, as promised. You know him from Pro Football Focus. I just know him from Twitter and being an all-around good dude. His name is Andrew Erickson. You can follow him on Twitter at Andrew Erickson _. Andrew, man, welcome to the Dynasty Warzones, the rookie rundown. How are you tonight?
I am thrilled to be here. I'm excited. Again, we talked, before the show. It's Sunday fun day. Here we go. There's no football on, but this is the action. This is we're filling in for the entertainment. No Sunday night football. Just three dudes talking game. So absolutely, I'm excited to be here for sure.
Well, I'm hoping it was in honor of your maiden voyage here in the show. I saw that you recently, I don't think it was actually you, I think it was your friends at Pro Football Focus posted your top five rookies. Now, we're going to talk about some rookies tonight. Do you want to cover that top five real quick and let me and Dallas hit you with a couple of curveballs?
Yeah, let me. Man, I've been doing so much rookie content over the past couple of weeks. It's like almost escaping me what the ranks are. So let me pull them up real quick. All right, so we've got Najee Harris, number one, Javonte Williams, number two, Travis Etienne, three, Jamar Chase, number four, and Jalen Waddle at number five.
All right, so I just wanted to talk about the one. I want to talk about Javonte Williams at number two. You are now at least the third person that I keep very highly on my go-to list of people who have had him second. And other people, including our own Matty Big Chest, our graphics guy and the host of Dynasty by Design, he's got him second. Dallas, where do you have Williams compared to Travis Etienne?
Williams is also ahead of Etienne in my rankings as well. He's my number three running back.
Wow. Well, check that out. So why do you like Javonte so much? Is it because he's a big guy? Has he got them A.J. Dillon quads? Is that it?
I mean, I'm always a sucker for the dude with the big quads for sure. But with Javonte Williams specifically, the thing that really stands out about him from the metrics that you look at is his broken tackle rate. And what it reminds me a lot of was last year with Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson, something that I would always tell people or talk about on podcasts was the fact that basically on a on a per touch basis, he was forcing a missed tackle. It was like almost like 50% of his touches, he was forcing a missed tackle. But the knock on Gibson coming out was, oh, well, he only touched the ball like 30 or 40 times last year. He didn't touch the ball a lot. That's not the case with Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams was basically breaking the same rate amount of tackles as Antonio Gibson was last year, except he was actually seeing, 180 plus touches all of last season. So I think that carries over. We see that carry over. And that's really one of the reasons why I'm high on Javonte Williams.
And would you say that my projection of Javonte Williams going somewhere in round two is a fair projection?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
The actual draft, not of like your rookie drafts, obviously, but like of the NFL draft. He feels like a day two guy, and it feels like if he goes to Atlanta in the top of round two, like Jonathan Taylor did the Colts last year, or if he goes to like Seattle in round two, as they're not expected to re-sign Chris Carson, I think he could push for even higher on some rookie lists if he wound up in like one of those primo. He feels like a Steeler. What do you think, Dallas? I see you nodding your head in agreement. Does he feel like a Pittsburgh Steeler to you?
Contrary to popular opinion, I guess is how I would say, he does feel like a Steeler, but I really don't think he's going to end up landing there. I just have a really strong feeling that it's going to be either the Jets or Miami. I think with Saleh coming in to New York, he wants that physicality and to set the tone. There's no true running back in that backfield right now. So if he doesn't go at the tail end of the first round, or maybe they get a little bit spry and even trade up into the first round again to grab him, I think the furthest he falls is the third pick in the second round to either the Jets or the Miami Dolphins.
Wow, that would be strapping a rocket ship to his back. All right, last question for our guest before we hit him with the 5 questions we were actually going to tell him we were going to ask tonight.
I'm so unprepared for these surprise questions.
Well, see, that's the whole thing. We know where you work, my friend. We know you're always prepared to talk the game of football. How would Javonte Williams fit in that Shanahan blocking scheme that the Jets are, at least under my opinion, they brought in one of the mini LaFleur brothers. They're dominating the NFL at this point. They're like the genetic clone of Sean McVay. They're popping up everywhere. How would Williams look in a McVay, not a McVay, I guess it's a McVay via Shanahan offense and that running scheme?
think that he fit in pretty well. And we've seen a lot of success with the running backs. You hit the hole, you make explosive plays, you get beat up, pretty quickly. That's all the running backs. It seems like no 49ers running back can survive a full season because of the way that the offense works. But hey, Javonte Williams has been able to guy that can break tackles, and that's what he's going to have to embrace. It's going to be him. It's going to be Deebo Samuel running the football. Basically, the 49ers, air show with Brandon Ayuk. But I still think that Javonte Williams, he would definitely fit well in that system for sure.
All right. Well, that is that's what I wanted to know. The Shanahan offense is popping up everywhere. It's the next big thing, and I love the comment about injury. You're right, because Green Bay runs it, the Rams run it, the 49ers run it, and all of those teams have had multiple running back injuries over the last couple of years. So that's kind of funny. So here's the thing. So Andrew was kind enough to be our guest tonight. We're trying to keep this rookie rundown show somewhere in the neighborhood of a half an hour. So what we're going to do, we're going to call it 5 good questions. And some of these questions have questions within the questions because I write the show sheet and I can do what I want. But Andrew was kind enough to be our guinea pig for tonight's show. So the first question we're going to be asking Andrew and most of our guests going forward is, give us the rookie that you personally will not leave your rookie drafts without. And where do you think he'll go in rookie drafts versus where you'll get him?
So for me, when I first got this question, I immediately just went with my gut with the first name that kind of popped in my mind, and that was Rashad Bateman, the wide receiver from Minnesota, just because he checks off all the boxes that I'm looking for in a wide receiver prospect. He has an early breakout age. He was an absolute mega producer at the college level. He produced in an offense that produced NFL talent. So he played alongside Tyler Johnson, who we all saw play in the Super Bowl. So he's just been a guy that has been able to produce at a really high level. And that's something I take into consideration. And the way that his draft stock is kind of shaping up to be, looking at average draft position, he's kind of looking like he's going at, wide receiver 6 or 7. So we can get him probably at the end of the first round of rookie drafts. It seems like when you factor in the running backs and some of the other wide receivers, because Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, those guys are all going to probably go ahead of Bateman, especially because Bateman in the real NFL draft is teetering towards like the second round is really more what I'm kind of hearing from actual, real NFL mock drafts to try to pay attention to. So Rashad Bateman to me really sticks out just because all the things I kind of listed out, I just really like what he's done at the college level so far. And we've seen guys like Rashad Bateman fall into the second round of the real draft. And it kind of reminds you of like AJ Brown. He was a second round pick, top of the second round. T Higgins last year, top of the second round. And these guys just absolutely were on fire, the minute that they got onto the NFL field. And that's what you get from Rashad Bateman, 6'2", 210 pounds. He has a prototypical size for an alpha wide receiver. And one of the biggest things we look at PFF is we can separate the slot from outside in the perimeter, because when you're playing in the slot, it's way easier to get open. You don't have press coverage to worry about, all that stuff. The thing with Bateman is he's been able to win outside as a true sophomore. He led the league, or he led college in yards per route run. So from the perimeter, which is just a really great indication that I'm not concerned about, can he win on the outside? Really, the only thing that he can't do, he's not a super dynamic athlete, but that hasn't stopped him so far. And I mean, he's had a case of the drops, but that's not something I'm too concerned about. So for me, it's Rashad Bateman.
That's awesome. Dallas, what do you got on Bateman? I saw you nodding your head. The minute he said Rashad Bateman, you gave it like a little wry smile and you started nodding your head. What are your thoughts on Bateman?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Honestly, Bateman for me is my wide receiver 2 in the class. I am never going to dethrone Jamar Chase just because he can do things that no one else in this class can. When you see him on tape, it's just freaky. I think if he played this year, we would all be talking about one of the best prospects we've seen in a very, very long time. But for Bateman, he is smooth with everything that he does. And I know it's a very popular comp that gets talked about, but he reminds me so much of Allen Robinson. He is not a sexy guy. He doesn't have these flashy traits that everyone likes to reach up for in both the actual NFL draft as well as in fantasy football rookie drafts. But Bateman is, like you said, with AJ Brown, the reason A.J. Brown didn't get picked before some of the other wide receivers like DK Metcalf, the Marquise Brown, stuff like that, when it happens is because they're not sexy from a physical standpoint. And so when I see a guy like Bateman that has no true flaws in his game, he's going to go into a system. It doesn't even matter where he goes, and he's going to succeed as a rookie where you may not get that type of production from some of the other wide receivers. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, that's good. I had him as my wide receiver 4. And I know it will be considered blasphemy to some, but I'm debating between moving him up to 3. Right now, I have him and Javonte Smith, 3 and 4 in my personal rankings. I'm a big Waddle guy. The more that I hear comparisons, the comparison I heard with Waddle, not to go down a Waddle rabbit hole, but I heard comparisons. He was mocked, so not mocked, but compared more between like a Tyreek Hill and a T.Y. Hilton. I'm like, I can live with that. If you could middle, to use a gambling term, if you could middle T.Y. Hilton and Tyreek Hill, I'm totally fine with that. I think T.Y. Hilton led the league in receiving one year. Obviously, we know what a stud Tyreek Hill is, so I would be totally fine with that. So for me, Rashad Bateman, I would love to see him land in a spot. I don't know. I feel like New England really needs.
Yes.
New England,
please.
Now, for those that are not familiar with Andrew, shame on you. He is a Massachusetts resident, and New England is very devoid of skill position players. They got to get their quarterback dialed in first. But I would love to see him in an offense where he's got I know they can't afford him. They don't have the picks to get him. I would also love to see him with like a Matthew Stafford. Just a guy who's got a little bit of that YOLO to him. He's just going to put the ball, even Russ, but we'll see where he winds up. For me, I could easily see, depending on landing spot with everyone not named Jamar Chase, I could easily see me putting Bateman as high as number 2. Certainly love the pick. So we're in agreement on Bateman. The next rookie question is this. Give us the rookie that you will not be leaving your drafts with because you feel like he's going to go too high in rookie drafts, and give us a couple of reasons why you would not consider this particular rookie.
It's never fun to talk about the rookies that you don't want to draft because
you're going to hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah, you're going to hurt someone's feelings because there's truthers out there for everybody and totally get it. But we always have costs. So I don't hate the players. I hate, their ADP is the common phrase that we all throw out there. So we'll talk about the guy here in specific is Kadarius Toney for me from Florida. And with him, the reason is he doesn't really check off any of the boxes that I'm looking for. So he was a player that really didn't produce until his senior year. That also had to do with the fact that he dealt with a lot of injuries at Florida. But at the same time, what I look at when I calculate, a dominator rating is Toney when he was actually playing in games. So I wasn't just factoring just all the games played. I was like, when he's on the field, what was he doing? And it actually came to my attention that, not this past year where he kind of actually finally broke out, but the year before when he was playing alongside guys like LaMichael Pirine, the running back, and Van Jefferson, he was actually producing less receiving numbers than those guys. LaMichael Pirine plays running back, and he was outproducing Kadarius Toney at the wide receiver position while he was playing running back. So to me, those are just big red flags from a guy that is now generating first-round hype. Because of the fact that he's, this guy, he's got the yak ability, the highlight reel plays, he juked that guy out at the Senior Bowl. That's what we're seeing a lot of. And he's the traits guy. He's the complete opposite of Bateman, where it's not the traits guy. Kadarius Toney is the sexy guy, but really hasn't been able to translate it to production on the field until this past year. So for me, he's going to go into the first round because the team's going to fall in love with him in the real NFL draft. And that's going to skyrocket him up rookie ranks because people are going to see, draft capital, first round, got to draft Kadarius Toney. And for that reason, I think I'm probably going to end up being out on him. If he was going later, if he was going to be maybe a mid-second round pick, maybe even a third round pick in rookie drafts, then I would be more interested in taking a shot on him. But I think the cost is going to outweigh what he's done so far. And I just think it's going to be too expensive for me to really be in on him.
Dallas, you got anything on Kadarius Toney? Because for me, this guy has come out of nowhere. It's I'll just be the first. That's why I love having, friends like Andrew on Twitter and so many other people that we talk with, because they keep me educated on college football and these guys. But it feels like in the last 3 to 4 weeks, Kadarius Toney has got a jetpack strapped to his back, and he is rocketing up both dynasty and NFL draft boards. I find that odd, but I'll throw it to Dallas. Dallas, what do you know about Kadarius Toney, and are you in agreement here?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more again. I know it sounds kind of redundant here when I keep agreeing with you, but for me, Kadarius Toney went through the same just completely mind-boggling meteoric rise that Kyle Trask went through this year. It was recency bias type of thing. So like you said, he didn't produce the last couple of years at college. All of a sudden, when the offense finally finds its footing in Florida, you see Pitts absolutely explode, Trask look okay, I guess, and then Toney be the beneficiary of everything that didn't go to Pitts. Yeah, of course he's going to look good. But for me, everyone talks about his juking ability, his elusiveness. Every time I watch him, he doesn't look fast. I don't think he's going to run fast as everyone thinks he is. So these comps of, oh, get him to KC so you can have 2 Tyreek Hills on the field, that type of shiftiness, that's not going to happen. I think what's going to happen at the next level is he's going to be running that 4.6 speed, try to do this shifty stuff that he does in college, and people are just going to light him up when he's trying to get shifty. So I couldn't agree more. I'm not a huge Kadarius Toney fan. If I'm taking a slot shifty wide receiver, give me Elijah Moore all day.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I agree.
It feels like he is perfectly poised. I know I like the landing spot, but I don't like the draft spot. I've seen him mocked a lot to the Washington football team at 19 overall, and that's a head scratcher for me. That's a real head scratcher. I mean,
yeah, give me Baton in Washington. If you're going to give any of the wide receivers
if the Patriots,
to Washington, give me Baton.
If the Patriots drafted Toney at 15 instead of Rashad Bateman,
that's the kiss of death.
I would lose my freaking mind. I would just, oh my God. That would, and first of all, everyone would know, because at that point, if Toney gets drafted by the Patriots, everyone would be like, well, he's done, like tanking him, like no receiver ever drafted by Belichick ever pans out, and then he'll become a value because no one will want to draft him. But yeah, that's my nightmares for sure.
There's the worst of the best case scenarios I've ever heard. All right, so the next question we're going to ask this man is, who is the most overrated rookie in this class? Maybe it's one and the same, or maybe it's someone else. When you're starting to just, maybe it could be a first-round guy, maybe it could be the top of the class. Who is becoming the most overrated rookie in this class? And I'm hoping you're not going to say Trevor Lawrence.
No, I'm not going to say Trevor Lawrence right now. And someone that I wanted to just kind of touch on real quick was just, I know you mentioned him, Dallas, is Kyle Pitts. Just the fact that it's really hard for me to evaluate him as overrated from a football standpoint because the guy is just amazing. There's really nothing you can say about him as a talent. He's not good. Like, he's a really great tight end prospect for sure. Like, he is as good as wide receivers. He was one of PFF's highest graded players overall. He was one of PFF's best graded receivers overall, and that's at the tight end position. So I can't come on here and say, yeah, well, he doesn't do this well. I mean, he does it all pretty much. But the fact of the matter is he's really expensive. And I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to have the draft capital to wanting to pay up for him, a rookie tight end, with a 4th overall rookie pick. Like, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do that when there's other running back positions available, there's other receivers available. So that's just one name I wanted to mention as potentially like overrated. But at the receiver position, I wanted to bring up the guy that I kind of think is a little bit overrated, and it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. And he's interesting because he checks off the box in terms of, early breakout. Like, he came on to USC, broke out as a freshman, was super impressive, at 19 years old, and he was competing with Michael Pittman Jr. So again, that's a guy that's in the NFL. It was a 2nd round pick and, flashed obviously in his first year as a rookie. And that's good to see that a player at a young age is able to produce alongside an NFL talented player. But the thing is with St. Brown is that was kind of the peak of his college career. He was really good as a freshman, and he never really took that next step. And even last year, when he had the chance to really be the guy, yes, he did dominate in terms of, dominator rating, in terms of yardage, in terms of touchdowns, but he never really took that next step. He was playing into the slot a lot of the time. The first 2 seasons he was at USC, they moved him outside, and he wasn't nearly as good. He wasn't as efficient on the outside, and that has me concerned that, okay, is he going to be able to beat, outside corners at the next level? Okay, and we don't see a lot of press in college regardless, but the fact of the matter is he was way better in the slot versus outside, and I look at his kind of profile, he's an X receiver. Like, he's not going to be necessarily pigeonholed. Okay, we need to get this guy in the slot. Everybody can't play in the slot. Like, it's just a matter of time. We need guys to be able to play on the outside. And I'm not sure Amon-Ra St. Brown has that in him to really be an effective receiver. Again, his freshman season, his PFF grade was 76.0, which was his highest grade of his career. Like, he never got to plus 80, never got to plus 90, whereas all the receivers in this class, like, that's where they are. They're at 90 plus at PFF grades. So again, the grading is not a be all, projective system, but to see him so separated from the rest of the class when, you see all these explosive players, St. Brown just doesn't really do that to me. He's not as explosive as a ton of other players in this class. So for me, I'm looking at his ADP and I see him and Tylan Wallace basically going in the same spot. And for me, it's an easy pick to go with Wallace. They have the same size and speed, but for me, I'm going to go with the production with Wallace and what he's done so far.
All right, I'm going to hit you with 2 questions before I throw it to Dallas to hit you with some questions on St. Brown as well. Actually, 3 questions. Is there a better family name tree of like Equanimous and Amon-Ra St. Brown? They're both the son of a former bodybuilder. And I like what you said. A couple of things, and they pair together. Is the role of the X receiver in the NFL changing from what it was, even say, in the Des Bryant days? It just feels like everybody has to have that slot component in 2021. It feels like if you can't play all 3 wide receiver positions, it just feels like it lowers your stock across the board for the NFL and for Dynasty. Are you noticing anything like that? Because I feel like everybody, like we've talked about, with maybe the exception of Bateman this year, everybody has some sort of a slot, play a little outside, a little bit of everything. Do they have to be more versatile in 2021?
It makes it a lot easier to have them fit in offenses. And I think that it makes a lot of sense. You want your players to play in the slot to an extent because you get free releases. So it works especially well with some of these smaller players. Like you look at a guy like Tutu Atwell. That dude is really small. Like he's like built like Tavon Austin. But if he's running free releases from the slot with his speed that he could run like a 4.2 or 4.25 or whatever, like that's going to take an advantage. But if they put him on the outside where he's now up against a 6'2" cornerback that's just going to peg him down with his long arms, then that basically neutralizes the guy's speed. So, and especially now with the rules where guys can run from the slot, they can run over the middle of the field. You can't get hit. So it's way different than, the Wes Welker days where the guy had like 12 concussions because he's running over the middle of the field. That's not the case anymore. So these smaller players can run confidently across the field, and usually it's just easier for them to get open, running from the slot.
Yeah. All right, Dallas. I mean, here's the thing. It makes better radio when we can like bring on a guest and argue with them. But I think we're in agreement. Dallas, do you want to argue with him on, do you want to take the contrarian point? We can pretend like we're like First Take and fabricate an argument that really doesn't exist, that we don't feel that way. We could do that.
Yeah, we can actually talk about it. It's funny that we brought up Amon-Ra St. Brown tonight. I was actually listening to the Podfather with Ray GQ. There was an episode that they were both talking through a bevy of prospects. And then when they got to Amon-Ra St. Brown, they both basically pegged him. I don't want to paraphrase or incorrectly quote this, but I believe the phrase was the most technically sound wide receiver that's coming out in this class, is how they said, from a standpoint of his route running, his ability to separate, that type of thing, as opposed to any contested catch it or raw speed type of aspects that you'll see from certain wide receivers. Do you have a take on that? Do you have a specific mindset when you see what type of player he truly is, other than just a slot receiver?
So I think that he could be, an all-around, well-rounded receiver, and that's okay. But in terms of in fantasy football, is that a difference maker for me? I don't think that it is. He's not he's not a burner. He's not really been used as a deep threat. So I'm looking for where's the upside with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know he doesn't stretch, but where's the upside here with St. Brown? Again, if he's going to be on the outside, is he going to be able to make big plays on the outside? Are they going to have to move him into the slot? Is he going to have to get, bubble screens and things like that? I just have a lot of question marks with him. And again, I bring it back to, what his draft cost is. He's ranked, his DLF ADP is around wide receiver 8. I have him at wide receiver 12 in my ranking. So again, it's also a cost thing. If he, falls to outside the top 15 receivers, okay, I'm in. Like I'll be back in on him again. It is so cost sensitive with some of these guys, but for me, he's right. His range of being drafted is right around, like I mentioned before, is Tylan Wallace. So if I'm going to pick one of those guys, I'm going to pick Wallace, who has a similar breakout age, has more production at the college level, and has shown that he can win on the outside, consistently all the time, win downfield. And he's wide receiver 7 in terms of DLF ADP. So for me, I see them very similarly in terms of where they're going, and I'm going to just choose Wallace.
So this may be a little bit late. Okay, you want me to go? Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
This may be a little bit lazy of a comp just because they went to the same school, but from an athletic standpoint and from everything he brings to the game, do you see Juju at all with Amon-Ra St. Brown?
I need to retire from any USC comps because when I was very early in my fantasy football career, again, when I was very early, I remember like specifically in my mind thinking, oh, well, Juju can't do anything because he went to USC and Nelson Aguilar, he sucked. And like just so early on, I was like, oh, dude, what was I doing? But no, I've grown from that, obviously. Don't tell PFF that I ever said that. But I did at one point think, I don't know if I actually wrote about it or anything like that, but that was something that, on an early age, you think about stupid stuff. But I wouldn't say that, no, because no, I don't see really a comp between the two. Comps are tough, honestly, but I don't necessarily see it between Amon-Ra St. Brown and Juju.
I've never been a big comp guy. What I'm hearing is, and I like this because I'm starting to hear the name St. Brown a lot, and that he's the quote-unquote better St. Brown. What I'm hearing you say, and I've heard others say this, is it feels like he's good at a lot of things. He's not bad at anything, but what I'm not hearing is he's great at anything. He's not great. I don't want to go as far as to call him just a dude. That's not fair, but I don't feel like we're getting anything special versus the acquisition cost in our rookie draft. So I'm going to check that box as overrated as well. All right, we have 2 more questions left. This is where it gets fun. These next 2 questions are fun. You get to make a lot of people happy, so that's always good. That's what they teach you to do here in the radio biz. You go out on a high note. So we have 2 good high note questions for you. Who is the most underrated rookie in this class? And tell us why you think they're underrated versus maybe what consensus is telling us.
Yeah, I know Dallas had mentioned him when we were talking about Kadarius Toney, but the slot receiver that everybody should want is Elijah Moore from Ole Miss, 5'11", 184 pounds, junior. He's just not getting enough buzz. I don't really get it. And I guess maybe I'm at fault. When I did my first top 5 wide receivers, Moore wasn't a guy I was looking at really at all. But then when I started looking at just the whole class as a whole, because I kind of went in knowing the top main guys, the Alabama guys, Chase, obviously, Bateman and Moore were my top 5. And then after that, it was like, okay, like I kind of have a drop off. Like who's coming in next? And really the only guy that, I would almost put in the same tier with those other 5 receivers for me was Elijah Moore. And I mean, I was just like amazed to see the statistics that he was putting up at Ole Miss and the fact that, he took over that offense. He was the guy after Metcalf and AJ Brown left. So of course he's not going to do anything, as a freshman because he's playing with 2 of now, they're 2 of my top 5 ranked receivers in dynasty football, like DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. So this guy was playing with both those guys. And, he did put up some numbers as a freshman, nothing spectacular, but what are you going to expect when he's playing against, or with those types of players? But in terms of his, PFF grade and yards per route run, especially from the slot, they were in comparison with Justin Jefferson. His last year in college, 97.7 PFF grade from the slot was Elijah Moore, exact same grade for Justin Jefferson. We obviously saw how Justin Jefferson, and again, it was a similar competition too. Jefferson played in the SEC, so did Elijah Moore. So it's not like a competition thing. Elijah Moore, we talked about it. He can go deep. He's a vertical threat receiver from the slot. So again, he doesn't necessarily fall victim to, okay, he's going to get jammed to the line of scrimmage. If a team uses him in the slot, it makes a lot of sense for him to see a lot of success. Again, PFF grade, yards per route run, he ranks top 3 among all of the 2020 draft eligible receivers. So again, he's up there with Devontae Smith, with Jamar Chase, with Waddle, all those guys. He's right there with them, and no one really seems to care because he's getting the slot only mantra, where it's like knocking him down because, oh, well, he just plays the slot, so he's not that good, or he can't do this and that. But I don't really see it that way. I think that he has so much upside, And I think he's by far, the clearest, pure slot receiver in this class.
Maybe I'm just like, it's like my own ego, but like when I invite guys like you, last week we had the good fortune of speaking with Shane Hallam of Fake Pigskin and the Devi Marketplace. And like when you guys tell us who you have, or I immediately go to my personal rankings and I'm like, oh, where do I have them? Am I too low? And like, it's almost like I feel like I should adjust on the fly, but no, I have Elijah Moore as my 10th overall wide receiver in the class, and I may be too low on him. I may have to bump him up a little bit personally because I trust guys like Andrew, and I said we had Shane, and we have so many great guests coming at you the rest of rookie season. But I take like what I call, the collective IQ. I like taking all these really smart guys like Andrew, like Shane, like Dallas, like Kane Fassell. I could go on and on and on. And I like to know what everybody thinks, and then I put them all like in a spreadsheet. That's where I get a little nerdy, and then I kick out my rankings at the end. Dallas, I know that when he mentioned Elijah Moore earlier, you smiled, and then this time you pointed at him. What are your takes on Elijah Moore?
I love Elijah Moore. He's in my top 5 right now. He's wide receiver 5 for me. I don't care if you're a slot receiver. I don't care if you're an outside big body wide receiver. I don't care if you're an all-around jack of all trades, can play everywhere. I want you to dominate at your position that you are good at, and that's what Elijah Moore does. He had 6 games this year with over 100 yards. 3 of those games were over 225 yards. The dude is a monster from the slot. He is an elite separator, and that's with his route running not really being that great. Like, he could still get better with making things a little bit more crisp, and he's never going to be that big bodied guy. Like I said, he's not going to be a blocker. He's not going to fit in a place like Pittsburgh. They want you to block. Like, he needs to go somewhere that's a little bit scheme specific that'll get him the targets that he needs from the slot. But once he finds his role and his footing in an offense, he's going to be amazing. And I love the dude. I couldn't agree more. That's why I pointed this time when he brought him up.
Let me ask you a question. Go ahead, Andrew.
I mean, the thing with Elijah Moore is just, I remember when I first really dove into his tape and dove into the numbers with him, and I just got excited, man. I was just amped up. I was like, dude, this guy's like really good. Like, why are not enough people talking about Elijah Moore? And I'm just thrilled that, we're starting to let people know about this guy, and that, Dallas is on him, and he's just rocketing up your rankings. I love it.
Well, I'm listening to you guys talk about him. I was like, why does this feel like he would be the perfect eventual replacement for Tyler Lockett in Seattle? Tyler Lockett's right around 29-30. He's costly. Russell Wilson's wanting more weapons. It just feels like a nice natural, like, bring him in, let him, learn a year. I don't know. I like to visually do my own drafting in my head as I hear you geniuses talk about these guys. All right, last one. Now, we call this one the James Robinson question. Now, because Andrew was nice enough to be the first guinea pig for these 5 questions, we are not expecting Andrew's answer to be the next James Robinson. No, you're not going to take a UDFA small school guy, and you're not going to get a running back that's going to give you like well over like 1,300 or 1,400 all-purpose yards between rushing and receiving. What we're looking for is a small school guy like James Robinson that come out of Southern Illinois. Man, give us a small school guy that's maybe under the radar, that maybe because of a lack of a combine, lack of like major pro days, that will maybe slip through some cracks that we need to keep on our radar. So maybe we can throw him on the back end of our rookie drafts, as opposed to letting him, be a UDFA in both the NFL and our rookie drafts.
All right, so I've got 2 because you said the next James Robinson, so I wasn't sure if that had pigeonholed me to just, okay, it has to be a running back. I wasn't sure, so I added a wide receiver in here too. So I got 2. So first one, running back, is Elijah Mitchell from Louisiana Raging Cajuns. So in this class, something that I looked at when I was looking at all the running backs is looking at yards per scrimmage play and yards per snap. So I'm just really trying to get an idea. Okay, when this guy's on the field, like, what are they doing? Like, are they producing? How are they producing versus their peers? Because I just want to know, because the raw numbers don't always tell the whole story, because we have guys playing 5 games, you have guys playing 11 games, you have guys playing like no games. So many split backfields at college. It's all over the place. So I just want to look at the raw per snap, per yards per scrimmage. And Elijah Mitchell absolutely popped out in both those metrics. He was number 1 in yards per scrimmage play and second in yards per snap. So this guy, when he's been on the field, not even necessarily touching the ball, but when he's been on the field, he has been super productive. And when you kind of watch him play, he has a very obvious NFL skill set, combination of size, speed, explosiveness. Again, overall, not going to be the sexiest guy. Again, coming from a smaller school, you're never going to see a guy like this, generate a ton of buzz, but he can be an NFL running back. 5'11", 218 pounds. He has the size. Louisiana's actually, put out some decent NFL talent. Raymond Calais was a guy that went there last season, or he got some buzz. He was drafted by the Buccaneers in the 7th round. I believe he's with the Rams now. So again, he didn't fire, but he generated some buzz last year. They have a competitive backfield, Trey Ragas. He's going to be draft eligible next year, so he's been pretty decent as well. And anytime you look at any type of yards after contact per attempt, breakaway rate, elusive rating, you have the top guys, of course. You have ETN, you have Harris, but then kind of sliding in there every single time, you just see Elijah Mitchell. He's just kind of hanging out, at the bottom of each of those things. So I think that he's someone that really kind of caught my eye and really stood out to me when I was looking at some of the metrics. And then from the receiver position, my guy is Cade Johnson. So he stems from South Dakota State, formerly the school that Dallas Goedert went to. And he didn't play last year because the South Dakota State football season was canceled. So it wasn't even a fact that Cade Johnson, he opted out. That wasn't his thing. It was basically the season got canceled because of COVID. And the only chance he really got to increase his draft stock was actually at the Senior Bowl. And he actually played really well at the Senior Bowl. He was one of the better receivers in terms of PFF grading in the one-on-one drills. And the dude just absolutely wins with speed. That's his name of the game. And I know you mentioned Tyler Lockett as a replacement. In the PFF draft guide, Cade Johnson's comp is actually Tyler Lockett. So the last time he played was a redshirt sophomore season at 20 years old, 67 catches for 1,300 yards and 17 touchdowns. And he posted a 45% dominator rating. So I keep track of all the dominator ratings for all of the receivers in this class. And that was the second highest in one single season was Cade Johnson. So when you play for a small school at the receiver position, you have to dominate. You need to be the best player on the field. And that's what Cade Johnson showed me. Again, he's another slot guy, a receiver that just is mostly playing in the slot, but super accelerator, super fast, super athletic. So he's my dart throw, I guess, at the receiver position.
All right, I'm going to hit you with one last question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dallas to wrap this thing up. So last question, best advice for dynasty GMs during their rookie draft season. It could be during the draft itself. It could be in the lead up to the NFL draft. What is a technique or something that you think would serve dynasty GMs well between now and the minute they're on the clock?
Number one is during the pro days this year, especially with the 40 times, don't double count, speed tests. Don't double count things that, this guy's fast. It's no, we knew he was fast already. So when Tutu Atwell runs a 4.3 or Kadarius Toney runs a 4.3 and he's rocketing up he's rocketing up the ranks because he ran. It's no, we knew he was already fast. Don't double count these types of counting metrics because it's going to end up hurting you in the long run. So that's one thing in terms of kind of pre-draft prep. And then the second thing is with the rookie picks are never more valuable than when you're on the clock. That's when you want to be, feeling offers. That's when it's at its peak value because the people that are looking for that exact pick, they know who they can get with it. So if you are looking to make trades, that's when you want to be doing it the most, is when you're really on the clock.
All right, Dallas, here's your opportunity. You want to ask this man a couple of questions before we get him out of here?
Yes, I do. I have two quick questions regarding my guys, is what I'll go ahead and call this section. So I am a staunch proponent of Michael Carter. And there is a lot of conversation with Javonte Williams. He's your second-rated running back. He brings a different type of skill set than Michael Carter, and I get that. But from a statistical standpoint, from what I see on the field standpoint, I can't really differentiate which one I like better. I love Michael Carter. Is there a specific stat that you would tell me to look at with Javonte Williams' game that puts him above what we're going to see from both of them at the next level? That type of situation with Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, other than size.
Other than size, yes. So that's the thing that's interesting with those two guys is because they shared a backfield and they're both kind of regarded in a similar light. I think that Javonte Williams obviously, or I believe that he'll be drafted first. So I think that ultimately people will chase the draft capital, and that isn't necessarily a bad strategy in any way, shape, or form, especially if Javonte Williams is a second round pick and Michael Carter gets drafted in, the 5th round or the 4th round. Like that matters. A day 2 pick versus a day 3 pick. I think that is a significant difference. I guess the thing with him, I would really look more at, explosiveness in terms of breakaway rate, who is really breaking more tackles. And I've also talked about it before was Javonte Williams is really the guy that was doing more of that than Michael Carter. And I think Michael Carter is definitely interesting from a value standpoint because again, it was really hard to parse out his statistics when you're looking at Javonte Williams. You're seeing Michael Carter as well. He's kind of popping up everywhere as well. So I think that ultimately he could actually end up being a bargain when it's all said and done in terms of the rookie drafts. But ultimately, I think that the ceiling is still with Javonte Williams. And again, we need these rookies to hit. In Dynasty, this is the window. That first 4 years in the league, that's when these rookies really fire. And I just see the path for Javonte Williams being a top tier fantasy running back is more in his range of outcomes than Michael Carter's is.
Okay, that's fair enough. Secondary question, more of a short and sweet one than that one. We went running back. Now I'm going to go wide receiver. What is your opinion of Tamorrion Terry from FSU?
He's really fast.
He's big too.
He's really fast, really big. I really haven't dove into him too much, really. He is interesting because, and one of the reasons is he hasn't really popped up in a lot of the things I've looked at. So that's one thing that's kind of holding me back. I won't give too much on him yet because I'm still kind of evaluating him. But yeah, I heard he's really fast. But we'll stay with that.
Yeah, he's 6'4", and he came into the season jacked up at 220. There's talks in circles right now that he's going to hit the combine at a DK Metcalf-esque 6'4", pushing 230 type of weight. And if he does that and runs a 4.3, people are going to lose their freaking mind again. So I'm just going to tell everyone to look out for that.
Well, I would say one thing about that is that, there could be some value there depending on where the NFL sees him, because this time last year, there were more cons than pros on Chase Claypool. And he was a big jacked up dude and he ran super fast. So if you can get him cheap, but I also know he's like 23 years old or something. So I know he's not super young. So that late entry into the draft is going to set him back. But I'll tell you what didn't set us back was this appearance by Andrew on the show. Andrew, what else is going on at PFF? I know you're over there keeping Collinsworth in line. I know it's a tough job. Someone has to do it, man. What do you personally have going on? And I tell you, I really have enjoyed the PFF podcast. I don't know why you're not hosting one as well spoken as you are and a great job as you've done. Tell Monson to scoot over, make it like a room for a third chair. And I'm going to suggest that. I'm going to write a strongly worded letter. But what do you have going on at the PFF, man?
No, I mean, if you do that, I'm trying to lobby for my own podcast too. So you comment on all of the podcasts, and leave a review like, hey, like, I love it. Let's get more Andrew on. Like, that would be absolutely fantastic. So listeners, if you want to hear more of me, that's all you got to do. Meet to the demands. The boss mans will make it happen. But tons of great stuff going over at pff.com. I have new articles basically coming out every single day, whether it's dynasty related, doing best ball stuff, just all over the place. I got free range. We have so much data at PFF that I try to leverage. I try to uncover all the goodness so that people can take away, things that they never thought of and things that are actionable. So you can read it and be like, all right, I'm going to go trade for this guy, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to start a best ball league. All those types of things. There's so many ways to play fantasy football right now. It's a great time to be in fantasy football for sure.
Well, head over to PFF, man. Tell him Andrew Erickson. Make sure you add that Erickson because Andrew's like a somewhat common first name. So make sure to give my man a shout out. Tag at PFF and then make sure to let him know Andrew sent you. Because if you're like, I love data. I have always loved data. It was something I was required to do daily at a previous job. I had to look up comp numbers and this number and that number. And I love knowing how the numbers make things work. So head over to PFF, check out my boy Andrew, and Dallas, anything before we go in for a landing?
Nothing on my end. It was a pleasure having you, Andrew. Thanks for coming in.
All right, guys. Well, listen, on behalf of Andrew and Dallas, my name is Memphis. And remember, here at the Dynasty Warzones, the Rookie Rundown, we're just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. We'll see you back here next week with a new guest and 5 new questions. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Happy Monday.